Chapter 3. Teela Brown. Teela was giggling helplessly. "Come off it," said Louis Wu. "You can't breed for luck the way you breed for shaggy eyebrows." "Yet you breed for telepathy." "That's not the same. Telepathy isn't a psychic power. The mechanisms in the right parietal lobe are well mapped. They just don't work for most people." "Telepathy was once thought to be a form of psi. Now you claim that luck is not." "Luck is luck." The situation would have been funny as Teela thought it was, but Louis realized what she did not. The puppeteer was serious. The law of averages swings back and forth. The odds shift wrong and you're out of the game like the dinosaurs. The dice fall your way, and it is thought that some humans can direct the fall of a die. So I picked a bad metaphor. The point is, yes, the Kazin rumbled. He had a voice to shake walls when he chose to use it. The point is that we will accept whom Nessus chooses. You own the ship, Nessus. Where, then, is our fourth crewman? Here, in this room. Now just a minute. Teela stood up. The silver netting flashed like real metal across her blue skin. Her hair floated flaming in the draft from the air conditioner. "This whole thing is ridiculous. I'm not going anywhere. Why should I?" "Pick someone else, Nessus. There must be millions of qualified candidates. Where's the hang-up?" "Not millions, Louis. We have a few thousand names, and phone numbers or private transfer booth numbers for most of them. Each can claim 5 generations of ancestors born by virtue of winning lottery tickets." "Well?" Nessus began to pace the floor. "Many disqualify themselves by obviously bad luck. Of the rest, none seem to be available. When we call, they are out. When we call back, the phone computer gives us a bad connection. When we ask for any member of the Brand family, every phone in South America rings. There have been complaints. It is very frustrating." Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Teela said, "You haven't even told me where you're going." "I cannot name our destination, Teela. However, you may—" "Finnegal's red claws. You won't even tell us that." "You may examine the hollow Louis Wu is carrying. That is the only information I can give you at this time." Louis handed her the hollow, the one that showed a baby blue stripe crossing a black background behind a disk of blazing white. She took her time looking it over, and only Louis noticed how the angry blood flowed into her face. When she spoke, she spit the words out one at a time, like the seeds of a tangerine. "This is the most ridiculous thing I ever heard of. You expect Louis and me to go charging out beyond known space with a Kazin and a puppeteer for company, and all we know about where we're going is a length of blue ribbon and a light spot. That's ridiculous." "I take it, then, that you refuse to join us?" The girl's eyebrows went up. "I must have a direct answer. Soon my agents may locate another candidate." "Yes," said Teela Brown. "Yes, I do refuse." "Remember, then, that by human law you must keep secret the things you have been told here. You have been paid a consultant's fee." "Who would I tell?" Teela laughed dramatically. "Who would believe me? Louis, are you really going on this ridiculous Yes. Lewis was already thinking of other things, like a tactful way to get her out of the office. But not right this minute. There's still a party going on. Look, do something for me, will you? Switch the music master from tape 4 to tape 5. Then tell anyone who asks that I'll be out in a minute. When the door had closed behind her, Lewis said, "Do me a favor. Do yourselves one too. Let me be the judge of whether a human being is qualified for a jaunt into the unknown." "You know what qualifications are paramount," said Nessus. "We do not yet have 2 candidates to choose from." "You've got tens of thousands." "Not really. Many disqualify themselves, others cannot be found. However, you may tell me where that human being fails to fit your own qualifications." "She's too young." "No candidate can qualify without being of Teela Brown's generation." "Breeding for luck." "No, never mind. I won't argue the point. I know humans crazier than that. A couple of them are still here at the party. Well, you saw for yourself that she's no xenophile." "Nor is she a xenophobe. She does not fear either of us." "She doesn't have the spark. She isn't. She has no restlessness," said Nessus. "She is happy where she is. This is indeed a liability. There is nothing she wants. Yet how could we know this without asking?" "Okay, pick your own candidates." Lewis stalked from his office. Behind him, the puppeteer fluted. "Lewis, speaker, the signal. One of my agents has found another candidate." "He sure has," Lewis said disgustedly. Across the living room, Teela Brown was glaring at another Pearson's puppeteer. Lewis woke slowly. He remembered donning a sleep headset and setting it for an hour of current. Presumably, that had been an hour ago. After the set turned itself off, the discomfort of having the thing on his head would have wakened him. It wasn't on his head. He sat up abruptly. "I took it off you," said Teela Brown. "You needed the sleep." "Oh boy, what time is it?" "A little after 17. "I've been a bad host. How goes the party?" "Down to 20 people. Don't worry, I told them what I was doing. They all thought it was a good idea." "Okay." Lewis rolled off the bed. "Thanks. Shall we join what's left of the party?" "I'd like to talk to you first." He sat down again. The muzziness of sleep was slowly leaving him. He asked, "What about?" "You're really going on this crazy trip?" "I really am." "I don't see why." "I'm 10 times your age," said Lewis Wu. "I don't have to work for a living. I don't have the patience to be a scientist. I did some writing once, but it turned out to be hard work, which was the last thing I expected. What's left? I play a lot." She shook her head, and firelight shivered on the walls. "It doesn't sound like playing." Lewis shrugged. "Boredom is my worst enemy. It's killed a lot of my friends, but it won't get me. When I get bored, I go risk my life somewhere." "Shouldn't you at least know what the risk is?" "I'm getting well paid." "You don't need the money." "The human race needs what the puppeteers have got. Look, Teela, you were told all about the second quantum hyperdrive ship. It's the only ship in known space that moves faster than 3 days to the light year, and it goes almost 400 times that fast." "Who needs to fly that fast?" Lewis wasn't in the mood to deliver a lecture on the core explosion. "Let's get back to the party." "No, wait." "Okay." Her hands were large, with long, slender fingers. They glowed in reflected light as she brushed them nervously through her burning hair. "Tange, I'm messing this up. Lewis, are you in love with anyone right now?" This surprised him. "I don't think so." "Do I really look like Paula Cherengov?" In the semi-darkness of the bedroom, she looked like the burning giraffe in the Dolly painting. Her hair glowed by its own light, a stream of orange and yellow flame darkening to smoke. In that light, the rest of Teela was shadow touched by the flickering light of her hair. But Lewis's memory filled in the details. The long, perfect legs, the conical breasts, the delicate beauty of her small face. He had seen her 4 days ago on the arm of Tetran Doni, a spindly crashlander who had journeyed to Earth for the party. "I thought you were Paula herself," he said now. "She lives on We Made It, which is where I met Ted Doni. When I saw you together, I thought Ted and Paula had come on the same ship. Close up, there were differences. You've got better legs, but Paula's walk was more graceful. Paula's face was colder, I think. Maybe that's just a memory." From outside the door came bursts of computer music, wild and pure, strangely incomplete without the light patterns to make it whole. Teela shifted restlessly, stirring the firelight shadows on the wall. "What have you got in mind?" "Remember," said Lewis, "the puppeteers have thousands of candidates to choose from. They could find our 4th crewman any day, any minute. Then off we go." "That's all right," said Teela. "You'll stay with me until then?" Teela nodded her fiery head. The puppeteer dropped in 2 days later. Lewis and Teela were out on the lawn, soaking up sunshine and playing a deadly serious game of fairy chess. Lewis had spotted her a night. Now he was regretting it. Teela alternated intellection with intuition. He could never tell which way she would jump, and she played for blood. She was chewing gently at her underlip, considering her next move, when the servo slid up and bonged at them. Lewis glanced up at the monitor screen, saw 2 one-eyed pythons looking out of the servo's chest. "Send him out here," he said comfortably. Teela stood in one sudden, graceless motion. "You two may have secrets." "Maybe. What have you got in mind?" "Some reading to catch up on." She leveled a forefinger at him. "Don't touch that board." At the door, she met the puppeteer coming out. She waved casually as they passed, and Nessus leapt 6 feet to the side. "I beg your pardon," he fluted. "You startled me." Teela lifted an eyebrow and went inside. The puppeteer stopped next to Lewis and folded his legs under him. One head fixed on Lewis, the other moved nervously, circling, covering all angles of vision. "Could the woman spy on us?" Lewis showed his surprise. "Sure, you know there's no defense against a spy beam, not in the open. So?" "Anyone or anything could be watching us, Lewis. Let us go to your office." "There ain't no justice." Lewis was perfectly comfortable where he was. "Will you stop bobbing your head around, please? You act scared to death." "I am frightened, though I know my death would matter little. How many meteorites fall to Earth in a year?" "I wouldn't know." "We are perilously close to the asteroid belt here. Yet it does not matter, for we have been unable to contact a 4th crew member." "Too bad," said Lewis. The puppeteer's behavior puzzled him. If Nessus had been human, but he wasn't. "You haven't given up, I trust." "No, but our failures have been galling. For these past 4 days we have been seeking a Norman Haywood, caged JMMCWTAD, a perfect choice for our crew. And his health is perfect and vigorous, his age 24 and a third terrestrial years. 6 generations of his ancestors were all born through winning lottery tickets. Best of all, he enjoys travel. He exhibits the restlessness we need. Naturally, we tried to contact him in person. For 3 days, my agent tracked him through a series of transfer booths. Always a jump behind him, while Norman Haywood went skiing in Swiss and surfing in Ceylon, to shops in New York, and to house parties in the Rockies and the Himalayas. Last night my agent caught up to him as he entered a passenger spacecraft, bound for Jinx. The ship departed before my agent could conquer his natural fear of your jury-rigged ships. I've had days like that. Couldn't you send him a hyperwave message?
Lewis, this voyage is supposed to be secret.
Yeah, said Lewis, and he watched a python head circling, searching out unseen enemies.
We will succeed, said Nessus. Thousands of potential crew members cannot hide forever. Can they, Lewis? They do not even know we are seeking them.
You'll find someone, you're bound to.
I pray that we do not. Lewis, how can I do it? How can I ride with 3 aliens in an experimental ship designed for 1 pilot? It would be madness.
Nessus, what's really bugging you? This whole trip was your idea.
It was not. My orders came from those who lead, from 200 light years away.
Something's terrified you. I want to know what it is. What have you found out? Do you know what this trip is really all about? What's changed since you were ready to insult 4 Kazindi in a public restaurant? Hey, easy. The puppeteer had tucked his heads and necks between his forelegs and rolled into a ball. Come on, said Lewis, come on out. He ran his hands gently along the backs of the puppeteer's necks, the parts that showed. The puppeteer shuddered. His skin was soft, like chamois skin, and pleasant to the touch. Come on out of there. Nothing's gonna hurt you. I protect my guests. The puppeteer's wail came muffled from under his belly.
I was mad. Did I really insult 4 Kazindi?
Come on out. You're safe here. That's better. A flat head peeped out from the warm shadow. Now, you see, nothing to be afraid of.
4 Kazindi, not 3.
My mistake. I miscounted. It was 3.
Forgive me, Lewis.
The puppeteer exposed his other heads as far as the eye.
My manic phase has ended. I am in the depressive leg of my cycle.
Can you do anything about it? Lewis thought of the consequences if Nessus should hit the wrong leg of his cycle at a crucial time.
I can wait for it to end. I can protect myself to the extent possible. I can try not to let it affect my judgment.
Poor Nessus, you sure haven't learned anything new. You sure you haven't learned anything new?
Do I not know enough already to terrify any sane mind?
The puppeteer stood up somewhat shakily.
Why did I meet Teela Brown? I had thought she would have departed.
I asked her to stay with me until we find your 4th crewmate.
Why?
Lewis had wondered about that himself. It had little to do with Paula Cherenkov. Lewis had changed too much since her time, and he was not a man to force one woman into the mold of another. Sleeping plates were designed for 2 occupants, not 1.
But there had been other girls at the party, not as pretty as Teela. Could wise old Louis Wu still be snared by beauty alone? But something more than beauty looked out of those flat, silver eyes. Something highly complex. For purposes of fornication, said Louis Wu, he had remembered that he was talking to an alien who would not understand such complexities. He realized that this puppeteer was still shivering, and added, "Let's go to my office. It's under the hill. No meteors." After the puppeteer left, Louis went looking for Teela. He found her in the library, in front of a reading screen, clicking frames past at a speed high even for a speed reader. "Hi," she said. She froze a frame and turned. "How's our two-headed friend?" "Scared witless, and I'm exhausted. I've been playing psychiatrist to a Pearson's puppeteer." Teela brightened. "Tell me about a puppeteer's sex life." "All I know is he isn't allowed to breed. He broods on it. One may assume he could breed if there weren't a law against it. Aside from that, he stayed off the subject completely. Sorry." "Well, what did you talk about?" Louis waved a hand. 300 years of traumas. That's how long Nessus has been in human space. He hardly remembers the puppeteer planet. I get the feeling he's been too scared. He's been scared for 300 years. Louis dropped into a masseur chair. The strain of empathizing with an alien had exhausted his mind, used up his imagination. "How about you? What are you reading?" "Oh, excuse me, that was supposed to be Louis. How about you? What are you reading?" "The car explosion." Teela waved at the reading screen. There were stars in clusters and bunches and masses. You couldn't see black, there were so many stars. It might have been a dense star cluster, but it wasn't. It couldn't be. Telescopes couldn't reach that far, nor would any normal spacecraft. It was the galactic core, 5,000 light-years across, a tight sphere of stars at the axis of the galactic whirlpool. One man had reached that far 200 years ago in an experimental puppeteer-built ship. The frame showed red and blue and green stars, all superimposed, the red stars biggest and brightest. In the center of the picture was a patch of blazing white, the shape of a bloated comma. Within it were lines and blobs of shadow, but the shadow within the white patch was brighter than any star outside it. "That's why you need a puppeteer ship," said Teela, "isn't it?" "Right." "How did it happen?" "The stars are too close together," said Louis, "an average of half a light-year apart all through the core of any galaxy. Near the center, they're packed even tighter. In a galactic core, stars are so close to each other that they can heat each other up. Being hotter, they burn faster, they age faster. All the stars of the core must have been just that much closer to going nova 10,000 years ago. Then one star went nova. It let loose a lot of heat and a blast of gamma rays. The few stars around it got that much hotter. I gather the gamma rays also make for increased stellar activity. So a couple of neighboring stars blew up. That made 3. The combined heat set off a few more. It was a chain reaction. Pretty soon there was no stopping it. That white patch is all supernovae. If you like, you can get the math of it a little further along in the tape." "No thanks," she said predictably. "I gather it's all over now." "Yeah, that's old light you're looking at, though it hasn't reached this part of the galaxy yet. The chain reaction must have ended 10,000 years ago." "Then what is everyone excited about?" "Radiation. Fast particles, all kinds." The masseur chair was beginning to relax him. He settled deeper into its formless bulk and let the standing wave patterns knead his muscles. Look at it this way. Known space is a little bubble of stars 33,000 light-years out from the galactic axis. The novae began exploding more than 10,000 years ago. That means that the wave front of the combined explosion will get here in about 20,000 years, right?
Sure.
And the subnuclear radiation from 1,000,000 novae is traveling right behind the wave front.
Oh.
In 20,000 years, we'll have to evacuate every world you ever heard of, and probably a lot more.
That's a long time. If we started now, we could do it with the ships we've got, easily.
You're not thinking. At 3 days to the light year, it would take one of our ships about 600 years to reach the clouds of Magellan.
They could stop off to get more food and air every year or so.
Lewis laughed. Try talking anyone into that. You know what I think? When the light of the core explosion starts shining through the dust clouds between here and the galactic axis, that's when everyone in human space is suddenly going to get terrified. Then they'll have a century to get out. The puppeteers had the right idea. They sent a man to the core as a publicity stunt because they wanted financing for research. He sent back pictures like that one. Before he'd even landed, the puppeteers were gone. There wasn't a puppeteer on any human world. We won't do it that way. We'll wait, and we'll wait. And when we finally decide to move, we'll have to ship trillions of sentient beings completely out of the galaxy. We'll need the biggest, fastest ships we can build. And we'll need as many as we can get. We need the puppeteer drive now, so that we can start improving it now.
Okay, I'm going with you.
Lewis, interrupted in mid-lecture, said, Huh?
I'm going with you,
said Teela Brown. You're out of your mind.
Well, you're going, aren't you?
Lewis clamped his teeth on the explosion. When he did speak, he spoke more calmly than the situation deserved. Yes, I'm going, but I've got reasons you don't, and I'm better at staying alive than you are, because I've been at it longer.
But I'm luckier.
Lewis snorted.
And my reasons for going may not be as good as yours, but they're good enough.
Her voice was high and thin with anger. The Tange they are. Teela tapped the face of the reading screen. A bloated comma of Nova light flared beneath her fingernail.
That's not a good reason.
We'll get the puppeteer drive whether you come or not. You heard Nessus. There are thousands like you.
And I'm one of them.
All right, you're one of them, Lewis flared.
What are you so Tange protective about? Did I ask for your protection?
I apologize. I don't know why I tried to dictate to you. You're a free adult.
Thank you. I intend to join your crew.
Teela had gone icily formal. The hell of it was, she was a free adult. Not only could she be coerced, could she not be coerced? An attempt to order her about would be bad manners and, more to the point, wouldn't work. But she could be persuaded. Then think about this, said Lewis Wu. Nessus has gone to great lengths to protect the secrecy of this ship. Why? What's he got to hide?
That's his business, isn't it? Maybe there's something worth stealing wherever we're going.
So what? Where we're going is 200 light years from here. We're the only ones who can get there.
The ship itself, then.
Whatever was unusual about Teela, she was no dummy. Lewis himself hadn't thought of that. Then think about our crew, he said. 2 humans, a puppeteer, and a Kazin. None of us professional explorers.
I see what you're doing, but honestly, Lewis, I am going. I doubt you can stop me.
Then you can at least know what you're getting into. Why the odd crew?
That's Nessus's problem.
I'd say it's ours. Nessus gets his orders directly from those who lead, from the puppeteer headquarters. I
I think he figured out what those orders meant just a few hours ago. Now he's terrified. Those priests of survival have got 4 games going at once, not counting whatever it is we'll be exploring. He saw that he had Teela's interest, and he pressed on. First, there's Nessus. If he's mad enough to land on an unknown world, can he possibly be sane enough to survive the experience? Those who lead have to know. After they reach the clouds of Magellan, they'll have to set up another commercial empire. The backbone of their commerce is the mad puppeteers. Then there's our furry friend, an ambassador to an alien race. He should be one of the most sophisticated Kazindi around. Is he sophisticated enough to get along with the rest of us, or will he kill us for elbow room and fresh meat? Third, there's you and your presumed luck. A blue sky research project if I ever heard of one. Fourth is me, a presumably typical explorer type. Maybe I'm the control. You know what I think? Lewis was standing over the girl now, pounding his words home with an oratorical technique he'd mastered while losing an election for the UN in his middle 70s. He would honestly have denied trying to browbeat Teela Brown, but he wanted desperately to convince her. The puppeteers couldn't care less about whatever planet we're being sent to. Why should they when they're leaving the galaxy? They're testing our little team to destruction. Before we get ourselves killed, the puppeteers can find out a lot about how we interact. I don't think this is a planet, said Teela. Lewis exploded. Tange, what has that got to do with it? Well, after all, Lewis, if we're going to get killed exploring it, we might as well know what it is. I think it's a spacecraft. You do? A big one. A ring-shaped one with a ram scoop field to pick up interstellar hydrogen. I think it's built to funnel the hydrogen into the axis for fusion. You'd get thrust that way, and a sun, too. You'd spin the ring for centrifugal force, and you'd roof the inner side with glass. Yeah, said Lewis, thinking of the old picture in the hollow he'd been given by the puppeteer. He'd spent too little time wondering about their destination. Could be. Big and primitive, and not very easy to steer. But why would those who lead be interested? It could be a refugee ship. Core races would learn about stellar processes early. With the suns so close together, they might have predicted the explosion thousands of years ahead, when there were only 2 or 3 supernovas. Supernovae. Could be. And you've snaked me right off the subject. I've told you what kind of game I think the puppeteers are playing. I'm going anyway, for the fun of it. What makes you think you want to go? The car explosion. Altruism is great, but you couldn't possibly be worried about something that's supposed to happen in 20,000 years. Try again. Damn it, if you can be a hero, so can I. And you're wrong about Nessus. He'd back out of a suicide mission. And why would the puppeteers want to know anything about us or the Kazindi either? What would they test us for? They're leaving the galaxy. They'll never have anything to do with us again. No, Teela wasn't stupid, but you're wrong. The puppeteers have excellent reasons for wanting to know all about us. Teela's look dared him to back it up. We don't know much about the puppeteer migration. We do know that every able-bodied, sane-minded puppeteer now is alive, is on the move. And we know that they're moving at just below light speed. The puppeteers are afraid of hyperspace. Now, traveling at just below light speed, the puppeteer fleet should reach the lesser cloud of Magellan in about 85,000 years. And what do they expect to find when they get there? He grinned at her and gave her the punchline. Us, of course. Humans and Kazindi at least. Kadatlino and Pierin and dolphins probably. They know we'll wait until the last minute and then run for it. And they know we'll use faster than light drives. By the time the puppeteers reach the cloud, they'll have to deal with us.
or with whatever kills us off. And by knowing us, they can predict the nature of the killer. Oh, they've got reason enough to study us.
Okay.
Still want to go? Teela nodded. Why?
I'll reserve that.
Teela's composure was complete, and what could Lewis do about it? Had she been under 19, he would have called one of her parents, but at 20 she was a presumed adult. You had to draw the line somewhere. As an adult, she had freedom of choice. She was entitled to expect good manners from Lewis Wu. Certain areas of her privacy were sacrosanct. Lewis could only persuade, and at that, he had failed. So that Teela didn't have to do what she did next. She suddenly took his hands and, smiling, pleading, said,
"Take me with you, Lewis. I'm luck, really I am. If Nessus didn't choose right, you could wind up sleeping alone. You'd hate that, I know you would."
She had him in a box. He couldn't keep her off Nessus's ship, not when she could go directly to the puppeteer. "All right," he said. "We'll call him." And he would hate sleeping